California. California knows how to party. California knows how to party. In the city. In the city. In the city. City of Compton. City of Compton. We keep it rocking. We keep it. Everyone shake it, baby. Shake it, baby. Shake it, baby. In the Sunshine State with the oh, I'm about to play me some California love when I get off of here right away. Right away, I'm playing me some California love. But I want to keep you guys up to date of what's going on with our EV infrastructure and what's happening across the entire United States of America. The entire United States of America. In California, where we keep it rocking. We keep it rocking. In California, knows how to party. They are out banning gas cars, and eventually everything is going over to EVs. Now, this is an investment opportunity for you guys. I don't want you to get emotional about it because I can't control what's going on over in California. Shout out to Legacy Builders. I can't control what's going on out in California. But what I am going to do for you guys is I'm going to keep you informed of what's going on out here with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is out here destroying the entire California economy. Let me keep you guys up to date of what's going on.
The Environmental Protection Agency will hold a hearing on California's EV mandate. That mandate basically bans the sale of new gas cars by 2035. Climate guy Mark Morano is with us this morning. Mark, a contrarian question. We hear that last year, 2023, was the hottest year.
Let me look at that. Tesla down. Lee Auto Inc., Rivian Automotive. We talked about Rivian and Stock Club and the Patreon. Neo, Lucid Group. These are all EV automakers and what their stock price is.
Ever on record. So what's wrong with banning gas-powered cars by 2035?
Well, first of all, if you want to get the hottest year on record is pretty much declared almost every year, every other year. It's based on hundredths or tenths of a degree difference, many times within the margin of error of the data set. And even the NASA former head global warming scientist said it's a political statement. It's meant to create fear, meant to push politics like an EV ban. And if you were actually worried about climate change, the last thing you would think of is EVs are the solution. It takes 500,000 pounds of materials, including raw earth materials, to make one average-sized Tesla battery. EVs dig the earth, and not in a groovy 1970s Brady Bunch way, Stewart, but I mean they dig the earth deeply with emissions, with environmental standards, and we're farmed all of that out to the countries with the worst human rights and environmental standards. China, and of course Chinese-owned factories in Africa with underage kids. So even if you're concerned about global warming, EVs aren't the answer.
But if they accept California's mandate, that rapidly becomes a national mandate, doesn't it? It'll be adopted by all the other states, almost inevitably.
And this is why it's important for us to pay attention to what's happening in California and New York City, okay? Regardless of what side of the fence that you stand on. Again, over here at the Millionaire Morning Show, we care about what happens and how it comes back to the money. So, we need to look at this as a long term. Again, when we make adjustments or when we decide of what we're going to invest our money in, we don't do it based off of day trading. We invest our money based off of what we think is going to happen 10 years from now, 15 years from now. We're building generational wealth. And what happens in California, unfortunately and fortunately sometimes, because there are some situations where we say okay, well, they're influencing what's happening in the entire country. So this is how we can capitalize off of it. May not necessarily be the best for Californians or constituents or people that don't have resources, but this is how we can make the money off of it, right? And so when we pay attention to what's happening in New York and California, the reason why they are always at the forefront of what's going on, and Chicago, because Chicago is a very, 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 very significant, they are a very significant city, is because it then influences what happens across the entire United States of America. So, for example, if you are an automaker, right, and you're trying to scale, scaling meaning that you're trying to minimize the amount of money that it takes for you to continue to ramp up production and sell as many vehicles as possible. And one of the biggest states that you can sell vehicles in, because they have such a huge population of people, they do not have great infrastructure as far as subways or bus systems or anything like that. And people need the ability to be able to get back and forth, whether it's working and so on and so forth. What happens in California influences what happens across the United States of America, because if you're an automaker or in any industry in particular, which is, it influences things across the entire United States. If you're an automaker, for example, what will happen is you want to scale effectively for that particular market, and then it influences how you scale in other markets. So I'm not going to make just EVs over in California. I'm going to try to figure out how I can maximize on the amount of profit that I can make across the board. So what California is doing, because they have so much power and they have so many people and they have so much buying power, is that they're influencing what's happening in the auto market. They don't have to wait for the United States of America to set emissions regulations or anything like that. All they have to do is make sure that they're lockstep in changing the laws. All they have to do is make sure that they're lockstep in changing the laws. So that will then determine what is going to happen in Michigan and what is going to happen in Florida and what is going to happen over in Tennessee and Idaho and Raleigh and Ohio and everywhere else in the United States. California is the one that pushed the button that then influences the type of vehicles that you'll have to choose between in 2035 or before, because automakers are going to rush to make sure that they meet these standards way before that, so they're not penalized, and it won't prevent them from being able to be profitable companies. And so that's the reason why it's important for us to care of what happens in other states. The states are the ones that determine who won the election. During the pandemic, how you were affected then affected how you voted. And the people that were in Florida and Texas, which was largely open, and Atlanta, was influenced differently than the people that were in Michigan and Ohio. That's a fact. That's a fact. The people down in Florida, because Florida was how do I know? Because I moved there. Was influenced, and the conversations was way different than the people up in Michigan. And that determined how they were going to vote, which then, in my opinion, swung and it heavily influenced what happened. So we care. We all are interconnected, whether you believe it or not. Financially, emotionally, relationship-wise, your state is no better than my state, because where you think that people going to go when it starts to become outsized as far as the cost of living over in California? Exactly what they doing now. They're going to come over to your state. And what happens when they all run over to your state because they all sold their homes for millions of dollars because everything was overly inflated in California and they're looking for a better tax base? This is what's going to happen. They're going to run to your city. They're going to then influence your elections. They're going to vote everybody out. They're going to turn it blue instead of red. Texas will then start to slowly become California. Everybody from Atlanta ran over to Houston. And then they're going to gentrify what's going on in your neighborhoods instead of you being able to organically grow like you would naturally grow if you were building up within your own communities and your own cities and your own neighborhoods within that state, right? Because it spikes the prices, because capitalism then says, well, I want to get the most money for my place as possible. And if I see an influx of people coming in here, then I'm going to sell it for the highest price possible. And then I price you out, because these people all want avocados and lattes instead of this just coming over here and fitting in within the culture and then becoming what it is that we doing. They didn't look over here and say, hey, why is it so awesome in Texas? They went over there and said, listen, we can capitalize over what's happening in Texas because we got this influx of money and we can't continue to live over in California. So when they push the button, whether it's living conditions, EVs, how they vote, what products you can have. It's going to influence the entire industry. What we do and anywhere in the country then influences what happens everywhere else in the country. Let's continue.
That would mean this country will ban gas cars by 2035. I mean, do you really see that happening?
Well, I see a major collision coming and a battle. Here, I worked when I was in the United States Senate Environment Public Works Committee as a staffer, not a senator. We dealt with this California waiver. The Trump administration dealt with this. It's back again. What this basically says is California is going to be granted the right to set federal vehicle transportation policy. That's what this is. That's what the California waiver is in layman's term, is we're going to let Governor Gavin Newsom dictate the future of gas-powered cars. This has to be stopped. It's unlawful. We need to have consumers make this choice. The whole idea, I think, was the Honda EV concept you just showed. We should be excited about new technology, but instead people are like, wait a minute, they're banning the competition. If these EVs are so great, why do you ban the competition? Same is true with solar and wind. Why do we ban coal, oil, gas, restrict it, ration it in order to have the winner, which is politically selected?
And I agree. And that's the one thing that I do stand on, right? As much as I like EVs because my experience with EVs has been awesome, I also have gas cars too, right? I had 2 EVs and I had like 4 gas cars too because I like both. And that's the thing about America that I don't like, is that the capitalistic system is still flawed. Because it depends on who lobbies the most. It depends on who's in power. And that's why these political positions matter more than you think. You think it just matters who got the most money. No, whoever has the most money then controls what happens within your legislative branches that then determine who's going to be the winners and losers as far as what's happening. It's not, listen, if y'all think it's just who can hug the most trees and who care the most about climate, it's not. Never has been, never will be. It's never been about who can hug the most trees. Does that impact? Does it influence? Do you take that into consideration? Probably, but that's not the determining factor for whether or not this is why they're doing what they're doing. I want y'all to be informed. I want you to pay attention. I want you to see who is doing what and what incentive do they have to do it and why that's going to affect you financially. More importantly, as a bag chaser and as Patreon members, I want y'all to start making informed decisions on who's going to benefit from this legislative process in the future.
That's the bottom line, is consumer choice and what makes sense logically. And this doesn't make sense logically, even when you look at it from a climate-obsessed way.
Related story. The administration has announced a $1 billion plan to provide green school buses to districts across the country.
Yes.
Okay, you're laughing. So you don't think it's a good investment?
Well, I think even the corporate media like Washington Post, which is run by Jeff Bezos, which is pushing these kind of electric vehicles, they couldn't even spin this successfully. In the article that the Washington Post is promoting, they're talking about years of infrastructure to even power this green electric bus fleet. Plus, we have recent history. Sweden had to shelve theirs because of cold weather. They weren't operating. Philadelphia spent some upwards of 20 million plus, and their buses eventually disappeared due to maintenance issues. They are forcing a energy transition on the public and on our infrastructure and our country that's just not ready. They haven't worked out even half the bugs yet. This is just another example. And it's due to this Inflation Reduction Act, which will pump out billions of dollars in federal mandate subsidies for decades into the future, unlike Obama's stimulus, which expired after a few years. So everything looks successful initially when you have all the startups. Wow, look at this, record profits, investors, green money coming in. It's because it's the illusion of prosperity from the government selecting these winners and losers. Electric buses aren't going to do, but the only thing electric buses will do is make virtual learning come back for students, as they won't be able to get to school. And then once the buses collapse the grid, virtual learning won't even exist.
Yeah, I do think that what happens in government heavily, everything is interconnected, and what's happening in government heavily influences what you're able to do, what you're able to accomplish, and what you're able to buy. I mean, if anything, the pandemic showed y'all that. And I know we got short memories. I know it's so easy for us to forget about it because it seems like it was just yesterday, but you've already forgotten the influence of what happens. Man, listen, they destroyed and created entire industries based off of what happened during the pandemic. It was companies and people that got rich, people that went broke. We seen what happened with toilet paper, Kroger stock price exploded. Peloton stock price exploded. Zoom stock price exploded. Eventually, Zoom came back down to reality. Peloton was still a trash company, and I told y'all to get the hell up out of that. Zillow speculation. What happened with rates went down to practically nothing. Everybody was trying to buy homes at the same time. Home prices exploded. People were paying over $150,000 more over asking price because they all thought that they was moving out. Now we see an exodus of what's happening in corporate real estate and commercial properties because it's hard to get people to go back to work because everybody thought that they was working from home. Listen, man, if you don't think that this stuff is influenced, planned out, and that there's people truly capitalizing off of it, you crazy. And the problem with us is that we're so busy focused on how we feel and whether we like it or not, instead of being focused on how we can capitalize from it. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. When you get this news influences how well companies are going to do because it's going to determine the course and what's basically placed in front of you. You can sit here and complain about it. You can get mad. You can like it. You can go back and forth. But I'm telling you, there's always a money play in it. And that's the thing that I very much expect for us to have a conversation about next in our next live stream inside of the Patreon for Stock Club, okay? So if you guys are a part of the Patreon, the link is in the description. If you're not, if you are a part of the Teach Pack, shout out to you. Keep on getting your Teach Pack. If you're not, make sure you get your Teach Hanley, 30% off your first order plus a free gift. I'm not going to sit here and fight change. The thing that I'm trying to understand is how does that play into my portfolio?